Rob, thank you for having us. Thank you for the invitation. Do we have the safety announcement ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
Welcome to Grand Central Madison. In case you should experience any type of emergency during today's event, please contact any MTA employee immediately to receive the fastest response of emergency service personnel. Fire safety, law enforcement, and emergency medical staff are available for immediate response to assist you. The fire alarm today in today's meeting space is a repeating tone followed by a voice notification message. If the fire alarm should activate, on-site fire prevention personnel will provide direction to all attendees on what action to be taken. If evacuation should be needed, the evacuation path for all attendees is to the back of your respective seating area and is up the escalators to the concourse level and then out of the building. For those attendees that are not willing or able to utilize the escalators, additional staff will be present to direct you to an alternative safe exiting path. MTA staff is also available to assist you in wayfinding for accommodations. The restrooms are located on the concourse level between 46th and 47th Street escalators, just outside the elevator lobby area. Assisted listening devices are available and can be obtained by contacting any MTA staff member. For those in the seating area to my left on the west side, if you should want to exit prior to the conclusion of the meeting, please collect all of your belongings and exit to the rear of the seating area. Should you want to return, please be aware that re-entry will be through the security checkpoint you came in from, and seating will be restricted to the south seating area only. Thank you and have a safe day.
Thank you. I've just been informed that we were not live on the stream, so I'm going to say welcome once again. Welcome to Grand Central Madison. I'm calling to order the MTA February board meeting, and we're thanking our friends at the Long Island Railroad for the invitation and the hospitality. Thank you, Rob Free. I know it wasn't your choice, but we appreciate it nevertheless. So we did hear the safety announcement. Let's hear from the public speakers. Lucille?
Good morning and welcome to the MTA Board Meeting's public comment section. We have 28 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. In the event that we reach the allotted time before hearing all speakers, we will transition to a separate live recording session. The recorded comments will be distributed to the MTA board and posted online. I would like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. Our first speaker today is Christopher Greif, followed by Deborah Greif.
Good morning. I'm Christopher D. Greif. I'm right behind you guys. Hi. And over there, I'm over this side. Advocate for people with disabilities and ADA accessibility transportation president. First, I want to thank everyone today. Coming here was really fun, and it is a challenge, but I'll say this. I'm just glad that we're live at Grand Central Madison because looking at these areas, looking at something beautiful and getting access to accessibility is showing that we are working. We are moving forward. And you know, today getting here from Accessory with my mother on it, with Ann as well, the concern was nice to see cars going through, nice to see there's a little traffic, but Accessory got here on time and getting here to safely. I just hope that in the near future, a lot of elected officials will understand accessibility is the key that we need. The full Accessory rides with us all. We need to update our trains and buses like our railroads downstairs that are getting updated. But they got to realize that leaving us in the dark, our elected officials, some of them said, oh, they'll be fine. No, we need update Accessoride. We need update everything from the MTA. As we said again and again, and I know the Capitol said the same thing, this is the new MTA, not the old MTA. We're in the 21st century. And before I go, Kathy, since you're on my side, it is a great honor to work with you and hope to, we will miss you very, very much. Thank you, everyone, and have a great morning/afternoon.
Our next speaker is Deborah Greif, followed by Brian Freach.
Okay. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Deborah Greif. Before I go into what I want my comments. Kathy, thank you very much for improving Metro North. The Metro North Cares. It is such a pleasure. When I get on the train, they make sure I get on and off safely, and I appreciate it very much. We will miss you, but you did a great job, especially when you had to do 2 railroads at the same time. They should have called you Wonder Woman, and I hope they did. I want everyone to know that people who've complained about congestion pricing, it is now such a pleasure that my accessoride was able to go through the HOV lane, through the I'm still going to call it the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, and was able to get up and around, and I got here in a little less than 1 hour. Before congestion pricing, I would have had to leave the house at 7 or even 6 o'clock just to get into Manhattan on time. I appreciate they have the HOV lane because we bypassed the problem with the Gowanus. And it's very important that we do keep congestion pricing because we need to make sure there are more elevators, ramps. We need the buses to make sure the ramps are working because trust me, when the driver can't get the ramp up, there's a problem. And I also want to see more trains being updated so we have brand new trains. I want everyone to also know, try sitting in an accessoride when you go on the Verrazano Bridge and the roadways need to be fixed and you're being bumped around. I challenge any of the press and elected officials to ride with me. I'll be very happy. I'll even let you be my PCA for that day. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Brian Freach, followed by Rachel Foss.
Good morning. I'm Brian Fritsch, Associate Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. I'm very happy to testify today from Grand Central Madison, which has realized decades of planning and work to become the linchpin terminal that finally knits the Long Island Railroad, Metro North, and New York City Transit together in one place. Congratulations to everyone who worked so diligently on the project, and PCAC is pleased to see LIRR riders showing their support for the station by achieving the predicted 40-60 split with Penn Station. There's a lot to learn from the construction of Grand Central Madison, both good and bad. And as the MTA embarks on the 25 to 29 capital plan, there's no doubt that the lessons from this project have been well heeded by leadership, who have utilized a smarter planning process via the 20-year needs assessment and employed a wider variety of methods to deliver projects responsibly and on budget. The next plan also rightly prioritizes the essential state of good repair work that will keep the system running safely and reliably for the foreseeable future. Yet the $35 billion funding gap for the plan remains. So PCAC floated 24 funding options that would raise a collective $750 billion when bonded in a report called Take Your Pick, Albany. Yet the funding for the 20 to 24 plan was thrown back into question just as congestion pricing is starting to work and winning over the dining patrons down the concourse and across the street from here. PCAC is outraged that US DOT chose to withdraw federal support, putting $15 billion at risk once again. This is just as the program began hitting all its targets by raising $48.6 billion in its first month, reducing traffic, increasing speeds for drivers, buses, and emergency vehicles. Congestion pricing is undefeated in court, and we're confident that Governor Hochul will prevail. We can build great things in New York when politics don't get in the way, as any current or former New Yorker should know. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rachel Foss, followed by Anna Humphrey.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Foss, and I'm the Senior Policy Advisor for reInvent Albany. We advocate for more transparent and accountable New York government. So far, it's been a very good year for MTA transparency. The MTA has released a trove of open data related to the implementation of congestion pricing, a commitment made in its environmental assessment. It is also continuing to release new data sets to fulfill the requirements of the MTA Open Data Act, passed by the state legislature in 2021 and signed by Governor Hochul. We thank MTA leadership and the MTA Open Data team for their hard work to quickly publish data related to congestion pricing, which has only been in operation since January 5th, 2025. The MTA is already the gold standard for transit open data, and this highly detailed, easily accessible new traffic data is extremely valuable. It will inform everything from evaluating congestion pricing to far better understanding traffic patterns, curb use, and economic activity in the region's core. This is good stuff and shows the MTA can move fast and efficiently when it has the opportunity. There are now 167 data sets published on the New York State Open Data Portal by the MTA, many of which feed directly into the MTA's metrics dashboard. The MTA continues to be one of the biggest contributors among New York State agencies to new data on the State Open Data Portal. In Q4 of 2024, it provided 7 out of 24 new data sets statewide. Some recent high-value data sets are MTA congestion relief vehicle entries, Central Business District taxi and for hired vehicle trips, MTA bus time points, capital plan projects for the 2025 to 29 plan, automated camera enforcement bus route implementation, and subway end-to-end running times. We continue to urge the MTA to build on the important success of its open data initiative with an overhaul of the capital dashboard. The dashboard was first created in 2009, 15 years ago. And just like the MTA's other aging data sets, it really needs an upgrade. And we've been pleased to meet with some staff about some of those improvements.
Thank you so much for
and
your
look forward to the
comments.
improvements there. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Anna Humphrey, followed by Evan Yankee.
Good morning. My name is Anna Humphrey, and I'm the Transportation Community Organizer at the Center for Independence of the Disabled in New York. I'm here today to urge the MTA to do everything in its power to protect the congestion pricing program and the critical funding it provides for accessibility projects. We've seen the benefits firsthand: shorter travel times, less gridlock, and a real opportunity to build a more accessible transit system. Riders have told us that buses are moving faster. While there's still work to do, we know that congestion pricing is making a difference. Beyond that, this program is essential for accessibility funding. Without it, we risk delays to crucial station upgrades and improvements that so many New Yorkers depend on. At the same time, we must ensure that accessibility isn't just about future projects, it's about making sure the system works today. Elevator outages remain a serious problem, and when they go down, riders need timely and accurate updates. The accessibility dashboard should be updated in real time, and cleaning and maintenance must be prioritized so that elevators are safe, functional, and reliable. As the MTA faces potential federal challenges, we need strong leadership to defend congestion pricing and ensure that accessibility remains a top priority. We appreciate your efforts, and we urge you to keep fighting for the funding and services that New Yorkers with disabilities, seniors, and all transit riders rely on. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Evan Yankee, followed by Philip Valenti.
Good morning. My name is Evan Yankee, and I am the Advocacy Director for the Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled. As you know, in 2022, BCID and others settled lawsuits with the MTA to make at least 95% of the subway accessible, using 14.69% of each year 5-year capital budget to build elevators and make other accessibility improvements. Along with 81 stations slated for accessibility in the 2020 through 2024 capital program, the MTA committed to making 85 more stations accessible by 2035, another 90 by 2045, and the final 90 by 2055. But building elevators takes money, so this week we went up to Albany to urge legislators to pass the $68.4 billion program you proposed, in which the legislature vetoed in December. We pointed out legislators that less money could mean fewer elevators. We also urged legislators at the transportation hearing in Albany earlier this month to ask Chairman Lieber about the impact the loss of funding would have on accessibility, not to mention other essential projects we all need. If you don't get the $68 billion, we urge you to review your priorities so that accessibility doesn't get the shaft, as it has in prior capital budgets. You must keep your legal promise to make the subways accessible. We're pleased that congestion pricing appears to be working, bringing in needed funds, and yes, actually reducing congestion. We know that the current administration in Washington is hot to somehow reverse its approval of congestion pricing, and we strongly support your efforts to fight this arbitrary and capricious move. We urge members of the boards who have a close relationship to keep fighting and to reach out. Congestion pricing is working. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Philip Valenti, followed by Alita Dupree.
Philip Valenti, President of TW Local 106 Transit Supervisor Organization. The MTA has a money mismanagement problem and an obvious disdain for supervisors. We know this because you spend millions on equipment you never use, like the crane at 207th Street, and now we found a brand new mobile subway car lifts also at 207th Street, still sitting in the same spot for 3 years, never used. You spend millions on this. You spend millions on this to eliminate eliminate supervisors in the Department of Buses, the ones that are on the road supervising operators. You spend millions on overtime for fire watch in East New York due to fire suppression problems, and deny supervisors waiver an election to protect supervisors from going broke when they're injured on the job. You flood the mechanics at the Zariga Training Center with overtime every day. At the same time, you change work practices on the supervisors at Zariga to try and cut our overtime. And we grieve it. You send managers into arbitration to lie in a desperate attempt to win at all costs. You spend $10 million on a contract with work partners to administrate FMLA, and FMLA filings increased tenfold, when the supervisors could have done this work at a fraction of the cost. You spend $100 million on a new bus command center and bus radio system, and the bus radio system is failing 40% of the time with drop calls and bad connections, putting the bus operators at risk. At the same time, you sold out the dispatchers, putting us in harm's way with the DOT. You did not protect us from getting killed with tickets every day for doing our jobs out in the street driving transit vehicles. You waste millions of dollars with no oversight. That needs to end. There needs to be a DOJ to look at all of this waste and to restore the public's trust. There needs to be accountability. There needs to be a DOJ-type body in the MTA to save it from destruction. I'm calling on Governor Hochul to stop the waste, fraud, and abuse. This body turns its blind eye to which this real reason why the MTA is failing.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Alita Dupree, followed by David Kupferberg.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Jano Lieber and members. Alita Dupree for the record, she and her with Team Folds. Wish I could be with you today in person. And what a treat it is to do a meeting in Grand Central Madison. I've done station meetings like this before. Need my clock here. And thank you. And to just be out there in the system, sharing your thoughts and listening is a real treat. Thank you for that. I'm interested in the locomotive procurement. I'm in support. I like batteries. I like hydrogen. I am still scratching my head as to why we can't run under the wires into Penn Station, because in Europe they have motive power that can run on 3 or 4, I believe 4 different voltages. You just change out the, I guess they call it a tap change or something like that. So I like the batteries. If we can use those on, say, Danbury and Waterbury, I'm in support. But I still am wondering why we're using batteries just for Penn Station. So I hope to hear more. And I didn't get to watch the videos on Monday because I was flying and can't do Zoom on airplanes. Anyway, I look forward to you voting for this and keeping up with it more. And certainly fair policy, keep looking at that. Keep working on our Omni. I hope to get my Omni card in the mail soon. I was told it's going to take till about March, possibly. That's okay. I'm still set up for my reduced fare. So anyway, again, I wish I could be with you today because I know that you're all having so much fun there in Grand Central Madison. But thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Take care.
Our next speaker is David Kupferberg, followed by Jack Nierenberg.
The MTA Board approved the Queens Bus Network redesign proposed final plan addendum at the board meeting on January 29th. Phase 1 implementation, June 29th, 2025, and Phase 2 implementation, August 31st, 2025. The service planners already know the Phase 1 routes and the Phase 2 routes. The MTA must post these on the website immediately. As I said before, the MTA Bus Network redesign should have 3 goals: close service gaps, expand service to transit deserts, and do both without negatively impacting the core network. I demonstrated that such goals were not fulfilled in the Bronx. It seems that such goals will not be fulfilled in Queens either. As the MTA board knows, bus service will be eliminated in the Rockaways via Newport Avenue by shifting the Q35 to Rockaway Beach Boulevard and cutting the Q22 to the Rockaway Park Beach 116th Street station. In fact, according to page 641 of the addendum, the MTA claims that the Q35 change was well received. For argument's sake, let's assume that shifting the Q35 was well received. One possibility is that the few well-connected people who live on or near Newport Avenue convinced the service planners to remove the service. I originally presented this scenario to Queens Community Board 14, which comprises Broad Channel and the Rockaways. The general consensus was that this scenario was unlikely. The only other explanation for the change would be that the service planners knowingly and willingly withheld the fact that the Q35 would be shifted from Newport Avenue without replacement. If true, and I hope otherwise, then the service planners should be ashamed of themselves. In conclusion, the Queens Bus Network redesign proposed final plan is nothing but glorified service cuts. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jack Nierenberg, followed by Tremel Thompson.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jack Nierenberg. I'm the Vice President of Passengers United. First of all, happy 2 years at Grand Central Madison. Now, I know we're all in agreement that the capital program needs to be thoroughly funded. However, Mr. Chairman, what has troubled me that you've said in the past is that there's no plan B for the $15 billion that congestion pricing is expected to raise, or that is projected to raise by the MTA. And you've said that over and over again. You said it last month at the news conference after the last board meeting. You said it on Channel 1 just a few days ago. And it troubles me because what happens at this point, I've been following what's been going on with the federal government, what they've been trying to do with congestion pricing, and at this point, everything's still up in the air. So what happens if, for example, the judge rules against the MTA and against Governor Hochul? Then what happens? There's no plan B, and the MTA is screwed. That cannot happen. We're not going to accept that. There need to be discussions about a contingency plan. How do we raise revenue? How do we raise the revenue in another way? And we've already expressed our disappointment and our disapproval for how congestion pricing, how the costs of congestion pricing are borne on the most vulnerable. But still, you have a right to fight it. But at the same time, you all have a responsibility to consider and have discussions, meaningful discussions, about other ways that this capital program can be funded. Not only ways that the revenue can be raised, but also ways that money can be saved. Like, for example, there's a new passageway for the 7 train at Grand Central, just to connect, just an additional stairway. How much did that cost? $75 million. Really? That needs to be investigated. So, again, there need to be ways. It's a great passageway, but, again, costs can be cut, and that needs to happen, and discussions need to be raised about how we raise revenue otherwise. Thank you. They need to be done today.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Tremel Thompson, followed by Philip Valenti.
I'm Tremel Thompson, Vice President of TWU Local 100. Mr. Lieber, I would like to know, what do you care about besides raising the fares and doing the bidding of a governor who says that black kids don't know what the word computer is in the Bronx? You guys don't care about safety. Y'all don't care about workers' availability, because if you did, why is there only one doctor to approve FMLA in New York City Transit? It's taken 90 days to approve FMLA, which means that you guys don't really care about worker availability at all. I'm arguing with the MAC. I go to the MAC to have a conversation, and all of a sudden, Labor Relations decides to call the police on me, talking about I don't belong there. How I don't belong there as an RTO vice president inside of New York City Transit to address a serious issue. Now, when it comes to the spending in New York City Transit, congestion pricing is nothing but a money grab. Let's be clear. Y'all talk about, oh, we want to improve the air quality. What about the air quality in the subways? I was just at Hoyt Street yesterday. It's nothing but haze. York Street, nothing but haze. I guess the air quality in the subways where the workers work at don't count, and where the riders ride at don't count. Y'all just want to put us in those subways like cattle. At what point are you guys really going to care? Y'all don't care about corruption. Y'all don't care about investigations. There was plenty of investigations that I was a part of where y'all act like y'all wanted to hear about the corruption. I told y'all about the corruption. I told y'all about the managers that told me, and you know what New York City Transit did, Mr. Lieber? Attacked those managers who told me no promotions, demotions, and forced them into retirement. This is the operation of the MTA. And if it wasn't for me coming to expose these things would never come out. And until y'all start listening, nothing is going to change. I'm here on front lines and I'm not going anywhere.
Our next speaker is Philip Valenti, followed by Christopher Leon Johnson.
Philip Valenti spoke already, so. I'm Joseph Betancourt, Vice President, TWU Local 106, Transit Supervisors Organization. I'm here to warn you that we're heading into a crisis situation that was caused by New York City Transit Authority, squeezing its supervisors to death in every contract year after year. In only 79 days, on May 16, 2025, a majority of our members that were promoted into the supervisor title within the last year will be making less money than those they supervise. And anyone promoted after May 16th will have to take between a 68-cent and a $1.83 per hour pay cut to be a supervisor. This is because on May 16, 2025, Local 100 will be getting their next 3.5% raise, and us supervisors are not only without a contract again, but we have been forced over the years to extend our contract so many times that now we're 19 months behind Local 100's contract expiration date. We're in negotiations now, and we will be forced to extend our contracts yet again to try and maintain some level of pattern bargaining. This will further compound the situation, making it even worse than it already is. In addition to the pay progression issue, there's also the fact that many supervisor jobs remain vacant for long periods of time. Nobody wants to promote into a job where they will be taking a pay cut for more hours and more responsibility. The New York City Transit Authority is the only employer I've ever seen in my lifetime where you take a promotion and it comes with a reduction in pay. We need action now before our supervisors get stuck working 24-hour shifts and are put in unsafe situations because nobody wants to take these jobs. A permanent fix is needed now as this problem continues to get worse year after year, and the Transit Authority needs to make this right once and for all.
Our next speaker is Christopher Leon Johnson, followed by Jason Anthony.
Hello, my name is Christopher Leon Johnson. Thank you for having me out here. I want to speak in opposition to congestion pricing. We all know that Donald Trump killed congestion pricing just like last week, and everybody's upset about it. I know a lot of people here are upset about this, but let me keep this clear, right? Look, what's done is done. Which I did on January 5th, 2025 is done. Yeah, which y'all win. But when Trump came out and killed it, this is our win. We won this fight now. We all know this is going to be a big battle in court. You guys are planning to sue the MTA. I'm suing Donald Trump, which y'all going to lose because whatever the Trump does, Trump can do it because he's the president. He can do what he want. Let's make this clear. This is my suggestion to the MTA. This is my suggestion to you, Jano Lieber and Mr. Churchill, that all money, all tolls that were paid since the day that Trump announced congestion pricing was going to die, was supposed to be killed, be refunded back to the people via their Easy Pass. This is all we want. This is all what the people want. This is nothing but common sense. But let's make. I think more that any toll that was paid after January 5th on 12:01 a.m. should be refunded back to the Easy Pass. We're not saying it's going to be impossible to get a refund back to our bank accounts. Y'all guys can't do it. But if we could just get that back into our Easy Passes, that'll be fine. Let's make this clear that congestion pricing was a scam. It was the biggest scam ever. We want to know where was the money going with this stuff. And at the end of the day, when it comes to this plan that's going to die, it's really going to die, that Donald Trump can easily give you guys the money that you guys need to fund the projects you want to fund. We need more elevators. We need more public safety in the train station. Shout out to the MTA PD for protecting all of us here today. Shout out to Back to Blue. And one more thing, Mir Joshi, please do not quit on Eric Adams. We need you to stay with Eric Adams. You're the only one. I love you. You're the only one that could keep this mayor
Thank you
in
for
check.
your comment.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jason Anthony, followed by Christopher Drummond.
Good morning, y'all. Jason Anthony, the Transit Guru. What you just heard, let's say an epic fail. Because, yet again, what the federal government did last week is an insult to our Empire State. And we want to hear what our governor, Kathy Hochul, is going to tell us in a few minutes. But let's make this very clear to all the press. New York is the Empire State because New York, due to the fact that implemented congestion pricing, 2 other cities had interest in it, Boston and Chicago. But those in the press that wants to spread falsehoods, conspiracy theories, get to the facts. Because people like Janet Lieber, Demetrius Critchlow, Rob Freed, Catherine Rinaldi, and every single person from government relations do their job. And me as an advocate, for over a decade, we do our job. But it's your job to report the facts. But what the federal government has been doing is stripping the federal fundings and giving it to the states. New York is not doing that because New York is the Empire State. And we're not surrendering to our king.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Chris Drummond, followed by Mike Howard.
Good morning. My name is Chris Drummond, conductor, Tower Chair with TW Local 100. Chairman Lieber, a couple of months ago, you referred to the kids surfing on trains. To New York Times article, you said, I quote, "These are not bad kids who are necessarily involved in criminal activities. They're just doing something that is incredibly reckless and dangerous." I think your comments was incredibly irresponsible coming from the chairman of the MTA, especially since last year, 5 kids aged 11 to 15 died surfing, and countless others was maimed. And it was train crews who had to identify these bodies, physically and mentally suffering physically and mental trauma, while this company sends a battery of lawyers to fight them from going out on workers' comp. How much more mayhem are y'all gonna allow before you'll do something? Now these kids, these beacon of lights, have graduated to stealing our trains, and you're trying to put that responsibility on our members. A woman was just set afire a couple months ago, and might I add, the fire extinguishers didn't work. And we asked this Mr. Creslow and the supervisors to provide our conductors with fire extinguishers. Y'all said no. Mr. Creslow disbanded the platform controllers program that kept everyone safe for extra pair of eyes. Now, I'm sure everyone feels safe in Metro North, Long Island Railroad, Amtrak, while the ridership and the workforce are petrified. I won't allow my kids, my family to ride these trains. And what are y'all going to do to provide our safety? A woman was set on fire, and y'all did nothing. A train operator was murdered. A conductor probably got his head chopped off.
Thank you for your comment.
And y'all done nothing. Y'all
Thank
had
you
implemented
for your comment.
nothing.
Our next speaker is Mike Howard, followed by Omar Balgeldi. Our next speaker is Mike Howard, followed by Omar Balgeldi.
I'm ready now. Good morning. Allow me to continue what I had said the other day about the Q113 and 114 routes at the terminal of Seagard Avenue, Seagard Boulevard and Beach 20th Street. Needs a dispatcher from 2 p.m. to 2 to 10 p.m. during the week. And I already said this, that I watched bus operators, I noticed and watched bus operators talking to each other instead of doing their job for them to pull out on time. You know, what I'm saying is, I be standing at Seagirt Boulevard and Crest Road. Every time I get off the Q22, and not only that, I also want to add this, and DOT need to listen to this one. I've been saying this, I've been emailing this for years, that I want to see countdown clocks at on Beach Night Street and Seagirt Boulevard bus stop in both directions. I see countdown clocks at Crest Road and Beach 17th Street. So I need to see countdown clocks on Beach Night Street at Seagirt Boulevard station on both sides. And countdown clocks also need to be added at Cornaga and Mott Avenue bus stops on the Q113 and 114. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Omer Begeldi, followed by Patrick Condren.
Hello. Good afternoon. We are students from Forest Hills High School, and we want to solve the problem of subway surfing. We've seen how many families have been forever impacted by this dangerous trend, and as teenagers, we feel especially connected to the problem, seeing as primarily teens are falling victim to peer pressure to subway surf. We do not want any other parents to experience this, and therefore this issue deserves attention. Solving this problem is a collaborative effort across the city.
Major stakeholders are concerned about this problem, and we agree with them when they say this issue is preventable and needs to be addressed. Each year, the number of deaths due to subway surfing has increased. And the MTA informed council members that 6 people have died in 2024 because of subway surfing, which is more than the previous year. We have spoken to people in the mayor's and governor's office to present our ideas in the form of a slide deck that goes into detail about solutions that we have in mind. We have ideas for physical solutions and a student-led anti-subway surfing campaign solution.
We have had success in meeting with several government agencies, but we have yet to connect with someone in the MTA who could directly guide us. We are aiming to decrease the number of subway surfing deaths and injuries, but in order to do this, we need your help in connecting with any representative from the MTA who can help us solve this crisis. Any form of redirection or context would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. We have a QR code with our email. If you guys would please contact us with any kind of redirection or MTA information, that would be very much appreciated.
We can also provide it in the Zoom chat.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it. Thank you. We have the QR code. Thank you for your comment. We appreciate it. Our next speaker is Patrick Condren, followed by Michael Ring.
Good afternoon, all. Nice to see you in this wonderful place. Kathy, congratulations on your Metro North and Long Island Railroad efforts, and beautiful, beautiful place. Chair Lieber, thank you for the identification shout out last month at the meeting, identifying private bus operators, continuing to tell you this month that yes, congestion has been relieved a little bit. Yes, ridership is up a little bit. Yes, there's less traffic. And the Lincoln Tunnel.
Please speak up, sir.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I'll repeat that. Chair Lieber. It's still the winter, as the details are all coming out. But generally speaking, not just anecdotally, the numbers are showing that you can get from one place to another by bus. You know, in New York, Long Island, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. These are the commuter metropolitan New York areas provided by members of the Bus for NYC Coalition and the Bus Association of New York, founded in 1938, you know, which most of the reroutes are run now by you guys, and we thank you for it. But there is an uptick, and passenger counts are slightly up, and we'll monitor and keep you posted on this kind of thing. And look forward to being the supplement and the backup for the different systems, as we have been for these many years. On one issue, I will mention to a few of you, especially New York City oriented, there have been a remarkably unusual, extraordinary uptick, totally outside the box of this board, of summons is being issued for idling when in service, in commuter service, for private bus operators. We're going to deal with the mayor's office and also city council and city planning, if we will, bring you up to date on this. But thank you for listening. And again, happy to be here, and I'll say it loud and clear. It's working. Thank you, Janet.
Our next speaker is Michael Ring, followed by Omar Vera.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Ring. If anyone needs a verbal description of my appearance, I'm a 61-year-old white guy who needs a shave, and I'm wearing a hoodie. What can't be seen, or could be seen a little, is that I suffer from peripheral neuropathy. My hands don't work very well, and I'm wearing ankle-foot orthotics, so I don't turn my ankle. I have very bad balance, and that's what I wanted to talk about. I'm really happy to come here. This is a beautiful place. It's really nice to see what billions and billions of dollars could produce, but I have a suggestion that will cost a fraction of that, and with ad revenue might even break even. When I get on a bus, very nice kids that aren't really bad people are sitting in the front seats playing with their phones. It doesn't occur to them not to sit there because someone with a disability might get on. The sticker says, "Won't you please give this seat up?" Please in New York City means nothing. Other cities have more affirmative stickers that say, this seat must be made available for persons with a disability. When I get on the subway, I don't look like I need a seat, but if I need to hold the rail, I have to hold it with my elbow. That kind of hurts. I don't want to take Accessoride everywhere, but the buses and subways would work a lot better for a lot of people if the announcements would be made regularly that said, please move to the back of the bus, please leave the seats available for those who need it. I shouldn't have to ask someone to get up. I don't really want to have to ask people to get up. And we could change the culture of mass transit a little by just making more announcements. And we can put little ads on the stickers, and then they won't cost anything. Thank you very much for your time.
Our next speaker is Omar Vera, followed by Kalia Hazlet.
Good morning, MTA Board. Welcome to the February edition of your board meeting. And it's interesting they decided to hold it here at the fairly new Grand Central Madison. Great choice. First of all, let me just mention that, like I said, we since congestion pricing has been on, we have seen like vehicles move faster and then people getting to where they are. So we got to keep up the good fight for all the enhancements. Plus, we have so many programs that we need to fund, like Phase 2 of 2nd Avenue Subway. Like, it's been over 8 years since Phase 1 opened, and we're still waiting for the start of construction for Phase 2. Second, like I said Monday, I think you need to revise the Queens bus redesign map and allow for the Q50 to be extended to LaGuardia Airport to provide direct service from the Bronx and the airport. And of course, in addition to that, we should also extend the BX41 SPS to LGA for the same reasons. We need more service connecting the airports with the boroughs, and we're supposed to be doing better and better every day. And last but not least, at least consider the permanently assigning the C train to Lefferts Boulevard and the A service to Rockaways once you finish the rehabilitation project in May. Please consider that, please. With that said, thanks for the work you do, and I'll see you next month.
Our next speaker is Kalia Hazlet, followed by Stuart Desser. Kalia Hazlet.
I'm here. Can you hear me? Yeah? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kalia Hazlet. I'm the executive director of a travel training company in New York, and I'm a member of the New York City Writers Council. Thank you for inviting me here today at Grand Central Madison. I'd like to first congratulate Accessoride with your ongoing progress. With the changes in leadership, Rachel Cohen, necessary office changes, shout out to our customer service connoisseur, Tammy. The passengers would be lost without you. We keep saying that this is the new MTA, I'd like to congratulate Donna Fredrickson on her retirement. I'm sure you're very proud to witness the leaps Access-a-Ride has taken during your absence. Everyone knows I always speak on accessibility. And as the premier travel educator in New York City, Mr. President, I'm thrilled with your commitment to accessibility. In my 26 years of work life and personal life, you were the only person who pulled up the chair and said, Kalia, I don't have a disability, but I want to know what it's like. How can I change the system? So I ask you today, are you ready for that challenge? Please allow me to travel train you. No suit, no cherry-smelling train stations, and no Mr. Jano. I, and activists and the advocates are not the only voices for New York. I would like to shout out, I don't see him, Kumel Arroyo, our Chief Accessibility Officer. I don't see him, but I know he's here. I feel him in spirit. Oh, he's here? Hi. If you all see him out yachting, please stop him. Okay? He's not just for New York City. He is for the entire state of New York.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Stuart Desser, followed by Dominique Clay.
Thank you. Good morning. This is the perspective of one Long Island Railroad rider who appreciates MTA's focus on the big picture, but regularly observes the railroad's disregard of details that degrade passenger experiences and yet would cost nothing to remedy. I'll give 3 examples from the Montauk branch. On some runs, there's a crew change at Spionk. The crew apparently has a discretion to switch either at the station platform or in the yard. When at the platform, the swaps is fast. When in the yard, it invariably adds 3 to 4 minutes to the typical delay. Out of Montauk, westbound train 6015 meets what's apparently eastbound train 6066 at Patchogue in one-track territory. Since the eastbound train's often late, the westbound train's held in the siding. But if the westbound train, which is slated to depart Montauk just 10 minutes earlier, and the eastbound train would leave Jamaica just 10 minutes later, the trains would cross in 2-track territory, averting a cascade of delay. Since the railroad ended scheduled connections, it seems to believe that trains must depart Jamaica exactly on time with zero regard for any train arriving across the platform, often literally slamming the doors in passengers' faces. For arriving passengers, the cost of not holding the departing train for 30 seconds is 10 to 30 minutes. While the railroad's on-time metrics might look better for this operational efficiency, it degrades the passenger experience. The perfect if trite metaphor is the operation was a success, but the patient died. Your metrics are dishonest, allowing you to boast improvements while actually degrading service. If I'm wrong about any of these and other observations, then you're doing an awful job engaging your ridership in conversation. If I'm right, then you have to attend to these details, which do add up. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Charlton D'Souza, followed by Dominique Clay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlton D'Souza. I'm the president of Passengers United. So let's talk about fare evasion. Why is it that most of the MetroCard vending machines have been taken out of the subway system, and now people who want to buy 30-day unlimiteds or the 7-day Express Bus Plus MetroCard cannot buy it? Omni does not have a 30-day option or a 7-day Express Bus Plus option. And what we really need is a 1-day unlimited that should be brought back on Omni if that can be worked out. But we have a bigger issue. People who live in Nassau County who use the 179th Street or Jamaica Center Parsons Archer system, or people who have Easy Pay Express, they cannot refill their Metro cards because the machines are constantly broken at 179th Street and actually throughout the system. Let's just say it's not fair. And so you guys need to work that out because the station agents are getting screamed at by everyone. And I understand the station agents are getting frustrated. But there needs to be a policy, or y'all need to work something out because it's not fair to the riders. And I really hope y'all put at least 2 MetroCard vending machines back at 179th Street because that would help people also at Jamaica Center, or have a technician deployed there. So when they do break down, the technician can go between both the stations. And you'll need to extend for 3 months the Easy Pay Express option, because reduced fare MetroCard people who have MetroCards in Nassau County and Westchester cannot refill it. And this is leading to fare evasion because people get frustrated, when they can't get on the bus and the card doesn't work. So please fix this. And also, why is it you have so many security guards but not enough station agents at the other end of stations to help people? This needs to be worked out immediately. Again, as far as congestion pricing, we don't support it for many reasons.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dominique Clay, followed by Ahmad Tamal.
Hi, yes, good afternoon. My name is Dominique Clay. I am an accessorized paratransit rider, and recently I've had the experience where my paratransit driver for the broker companies that Accessoride uses to pick us up came and picked me up, and he was high, went down the wrong block, the wrong way, and he was stopped by the police. If he wasn't stopped by the police, I'm not sure where I would be at right now, because that driver was extremely dangerous and he was very aggressive. I reported it to Accessoride, but they continue to send drivers like that. That was one of the more extreme cases. However, it has been just as worse with these broker drivers. MTA needs to have a better screening process for these drivers that are picking up one of the most vulnerable populations in the city, and do a better job at screening. I love the broker program because it's more access to being able to get to where I need to go to in a timely manner. However, I do not feel safe with some of these drivers. These drivers use their cell phones when they're driving, and it's very unsafe. If there's something like this was to happen on a MTA bus or with the MTA train, and the conductor or the driver was on their phone or doing something unsafe, people would be in uproar. But Accessoride users, like I said, are some of the most vulnerable populations, and we do not get that same satisfaction with our drivers getting screened properly and being trained with how to work with people with disabilities. I also want to advocate for Omni with Accessorized, so we do not have to pay $3 because our drivers cannot give us 10 cents change. Everyone else is able to pay their fair amount, but we have to pay a different amount because we have to get the exact change, which is hard to get 90 cents in 2025, or we have to pay the $3, and that's not fair to us. Thank you. Thank you.
Our final speaker is Ahmad Tamal.
Good morning, MTA Chair and board members. I hope you all had a swift and relaxed commute. I speak to you regarding the undue burden placed on the residents of Queens through congestion pricing. Effectively, the MTA levies a direct tax on persons who drive in and out of Queens. I am for congestion pricing, and I support the use of public transport to make the city more hospitable, but not at the expense of my fellow neighbors. Firstly, it is frustrating, if not outright insulting, to the residents of Queens when the MTA implies that it cannot remedy the situation because the MTA is simply following the law. This statement creates another layer of hurdle and shifts blame to our elected officials. Second, the MTA is simply not ready for congestion pricing during rush hour. MTA does not have the capacity to carry passengers to and from work. For 10 years, I have taken the subway, and it's not an hyperbole when I state we are packed in like sardines. We are not cattle, and treating anyone in such a manner is wrong. Just today, while taking the N train, a person who needed help from social services hindered the use of the car. The NYPD surge does not alleviate this issue, as they are not equipped to handle mental instability, and probably is the wrong agency to take on this ever-growing challenge. Chairman Lieber, I see your frustration as you work down the chain of command to make MTA bearable for everyday New Yorkers. I still believe you and the board care about the welfare of New Yorkers. I implore you and the board to kindly consider Queens and its very low to moderate income families. Thank you for your time.
Chair Lieber, that concludes public comment. Okay.
Okay, don't know what happened, but good morning, everyone. Andy Pollock here from Passengers United. So, congestion pricing, it was unveiled at the Finance Committee meeting this past Monday that $49 million was raised during the month of January. And it's interesting how most of that revenue came from private vehicles. So, obviously, sedans, pickup trucks, SUVs. What surprised us at Passengers United was there was actually less tractor trailers, 16, 18-wheelers, that went into the congestion relief zone. Now, you would think it's called the relief zone because it is busy. It is Midtown Manhattan, and normally a lot of people get deliveries. But that is a shocking number to see that more people actually decided to pay the $9 toll. So I agree with what Vice President Nierenberg said earlier. At this meeting today, there needs to be a plan B. What can the MTA do should the lawsuit filed by the governor is lost in federal court? What if the Southern District rules in favor of President Trump? There has to be a plan B in place. We don't want to see major projects like the Hollis elevator, for an example. We've been advocating for that for a long time. We want to see the Hollis elevator done. I want to see the 7th Avenue elevator done on the B, D, and E line. I want to see the Woodhaven Boulevard station on the MR line get an elevator. So there needs to be alternate funding sources, and I'm hoping this board today will discuss it at this historic meeting here at Grand Central Madison. So thank you very much.
Now that actually does conclude public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucille. Thank you to everybody who showed up today, especially public speakers, different venue. We appreciate the extra effort that our public speakers and everybody has gone to be with us here today. Listen, we're here for a reason. This terminal, Grand Central Madison, opened 2 years ago this month. I am still proud that MTA Construction and Development, which is the new MTA we've all been talking about in terms of capital work, got it done after decades of delays under 4 prior governors. That's what makes the station such an interesting symbol for today's MTA, both of past dysfunction and of current day success. When I first started MTA Construction Development in 2017, after listening to my diagnosis at a board meeting like this of what was necessary to reform how we do capital construction at the MTA, a board member who, by the way, was appointed by Mark Molinaro, who was then the Dutchess County executive and is now nominated to be the head of the FTA. That board member asked me to take a close look at the Grand Central Madison, what we called then the East Side Access Project, and to try to figure out what to be done with the mess that we had all inherited. We did, and we came up with a plan. It called for a lot of changes. Some were how we did project management, how we detailed the schedule, which is key, but also some personnel changes, which were sometimes awkward and uncomfortable. But one thing that we refused to change was the schedule. Everybody wanted, yet again, to push the schedule back. We heard it from our internal folks. Rob, we heard it from the railroad. We heard it from, most of all, from consultants, a lot of whom had been on the project for years and were being compensated based on their time. In other words, with not much incentive to get the project finished. And we refused to push the date back. And you know what? We succeeded. Now, here we are to enjoy this stunning new addition to Grand Central, the complex that I insist on referring to as the temple of mass transit in the United States. At this location, we have every one of our public transit service come together in a nexus. Subway, Metro North, Long Island Railroad, and at the street level, a ton of buses. In recent years, we've been hearing a lot about the Gateway Project, how important it is for New Jersey Transit and Amtrak to have more capacity, to run service and also a second way to get across the Hudson River. Well, we've got our gateway. We're in it right now. This is what let us increase Long Island Railroad service by 40% and to provide Long Islanders with a second option to get across the river to and from Manhattan Island in an emergency. Like, for example, when Amtrak blows up Penn Station like they did last week. This is our gateway. And you know what? It had a lot of problems. It took too long and it was too expensive. But it's finished. It's done. I feel badly for our New Jersey neighbors who have been promised so much, but are going to have to a long wait to see the kind of improvement that New Yorkers are getting right now from Grand Central Madison. You know, here in New York, we've been looking after transit because we know how important it is. And it is overlooked sometimes in all of the hubbub and information that flies around. But this Grand Central complex that we're in, subway, the shuttle, the commuter railroads, handles more people on a daily basis than LaGuardia Airport, our most celebrated, justifiably celebrated public infrastructure project in recent years. This is the center of transit that makes New York possible, and we're sitting in it and celebrating it today. Part of it is in New York, we're not afraid to think big and tackle the region's challenges. Congestion pricing is one of a very few examples out there of government taking a big swing and then seeing immediate results for the public. This is like when we prohibited smoking in bars, and a few weeks after it was instituted, all the naysayers were admitting, oh, this is going to work after all. It was quickly recognized as a big win for the public, and so is congestion pricing. And I'll say it again, we're not going back, no matter what the rhetoric from other parts of the East Coast is. We tried gridlock for 50 years. It was bad for our economy, it was bad for our health, and it was bad for New Yorkers' quality of life. We're not going back. It's been a year since the president announced that he had killed the program. Ladies and gentlemen, cameras are on, traffic is still way down, people are getting to work in half the time that they used to from many parts of the region, and you know what? The city is feeling like a much better place. There have been 2.8 million fewer cars in the congestion relief zone since the program launched. Parking all of those cars would take up 580 acres, roughly equivalent to 2/3 of Central Park. Central Park, indeed. We're not interested in converting Central Park to a parking lot. And for all the Chicken Littles out there, the economy in the congestion zone has been humming. Here's what the data shows since the program kicked off. Defying predictions, people are coming. Pedestrian traffic is up 4%, and that is a much higher rate of increase than all the other areas around it of Manhattan and of the city. Broadway attendance up 21%, restaurant reservations up 7%, retail sales up $900 million, and retail occupancy is up as well. You know, we all have been mindful of the need to get our streetscape reactivated by retail. So many spaces became unoccupied during COVID, and now we're starting to see that turnaround. Even commercial leasing, something I know President Trump cares about, is up, and it's up 61%, ladies and gentlemen. That is the private sector voting with confidence on Manhattan Central Business District, and congestion pricing is part of that story. Meantime, the travel times into the CBD are way down in the morning peak by 44% for the Holland Tunnel for New Jerseyites, down 36% for people using the Queensboro Bridge, and coming from Brooklyn, travel times are down over 30% on the Williamsburg Bridge. Drivers and bus commuters are routinely saving 10 to 30 minutes. And Governor Hochul talks about saving times you put back in people's lives, whether it's for exercise that you couldn't do before, time to get your kids set up for school or to prepare a lunch. This is really valuable contribution to people's lives. Meantime, speeds on the historically clogged cross streets of Manhattan, Canal Street, 34th Street, 57th Street, are way up, 30% faster than before. And the trips are not only faster, they're more reliable. Where delays were once common occurrence, they're now dramatically less frequent, as you can see on the graph. And what the graph is showing you is, for example, on the Williamsburg Bridge, it used to be on 65% of days, there were delays just sitting there in traffic of 3 minutes or more. Now, since congestion pricing started, it's just 2% of days. And smaller but no less dramatic change has been happening on all of these crossings portrayed on this graph. The only people disappointed about the effects of congestion pricing are the fast food companies who, according to the New York Post, now get fewer customers than when there's a lot of gridlock. Another win for health and safety. Also important for MTA riders, we are meeting our revenue projections. As reported at the Finance Committee on Monday, after the first month of tolling, we're on track to generate the projected $500 million in revenue, net revenue, after taking out the expenses of operating the program. And that means we're going to continue to confidently move forward on the congestion pricing funded projects, as Governor Hochul announced at the outset of the elimination of the pause. This is great news for our capital program. It's even greater news for the riders, because don't forget it, all of this congestion pricing drama is playing out at a time when we really have to stay focused about the future, and that means the 2025 to 29 MTA capital program. This is peak budget season in Albany as we sit here. We're fighting to get the full funding for desperately needed transit improvements. We talked about this again and again since the release of the 20-year needs assessment. There are parts of our system, make no mistake about it, that are absolutely essential to our ability to put on service, but which are rapidly decaying. They are falling apart. Power, structure, signals, key interlockings. In one of the many recent episodes where ancient infrastructure just flat out gave out, we had an electrical explosion out of Pennsylvania Avenue in East New York back on February 9th. Crews had to do complicated repairs to an elevated structure that was compromised in the blast. Major kudos to the team at Transit. Demetrius and I were in touch throughout that day. The team did an amazing job putting that structure back together so that service could be restored by day end. We hate that they are getting so much practice at these kinds of emergencies, but that is what happens when you neglect basic infrastructure for 100 years. You cannot neglect this stuff. This is somebody sending a message, somebody on high sending us a message, sort of like the big storms we keep having that are obviously a result of climate change. Can you hear us now, Albany? Can you hear the consequences for your constituents, for your riders? I am hopeful that the legislature is going to come through, especially with Governor Hochul leading the pro-transit coalition, as she did in 2023 when the operating budget was under pressure, and as she has done on congestion pricing as we confront the naysayers in Washington. But we as an MTA team cannot afford to be distracted. We got to walk and chew gum at the same time. We got to protect congestion pricing. We got to keep making the case to Albany lawmakers about the capital program, and we must keep delivering that top-notch service that has become symbolic of the team who runs service at MTA. We have to do all this while continuing to find new efficiencies. Our credibility in Albany and with the public depends on efficiencies. I am never going to stop shouting from the rooftops that unlike almost every other government agency, we are putting on a ton more service since COVID, but our budget in real terms is down 3%. We're running thousands, tens of thousands more commuter rail trains, more subway trains, 14 lines, Demetrius? And yet our budget is way down. And we're doing all this while operating, and it's costly, a 700,000-foot terminal that we're sitting in right now. That is a sign of efficiency. Now, efficiency seems to be a new concept in Washington, D.C., but we at MTA have been at it for 3 years with Governor Hochul's support, successfully cutting $500 million, it's now $500 million out of our annual budget. We've managed to do it without mass layoffs. And part of the reason is our managers actually do know the top 5 things that most of their employees have done in the past week. But of course, we got to keep our core function moving in the right direction, which is to bring back the ridership. January is typically one of the lowest months in terms of ridership, but right now we're seeing hefty year-over-year increases for subways and buses, especially express buses, not a coincidence, post-congestion pricing. And our Staten Island Express bus customers are so pleased with the traffic reductions, with the speed improvements that I showed you, that customer satisfaction among that group has shot up 21% in just a single month. But across the board, paratransit up 20% versus 2024, January 2024. Long Island Railroad up 11%. 97% on-time performance, Rob, 3 points over your goal. 90%, and of course, Grand Central Madison, this facility has a 95% customer satisfaction rating. Amazing, amazing accomplishment. Of course, when we're talking about OTP, we never forget about Metro North. 98% OTP, ridership up 7%. That's what it's all about, and that's what we're so determined to keep going, even in the post-Rinaldi era. We'll be talking about that in a minute. Now, I am delighted, if this is the moment, to welcome Governor Kathy Hochul. This is the third time, this is historic, the third time that Governor Hochul has visited the MTA Board meeting. I don't think it was ever done before you became the governor, but it is a sign of her commitment to transit. And we used to say that you were the governor from Buffalo, but Governor Hochul is an immigrant to New York City, and she is showing her colors by her passion for transit, which she supported again and again. We just went through some of that history, Governor, in my earlier remarks. We are so grateful for your leadership on all issues, safety, finances, and the need for investment and the fight for congestion pricing. You really get it. Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be back here. Yes, I was the first governor to go to an MTA meeting. I was also the second governor and also the third governor. I will probably be the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth, because this is where the action is. And whenever I have a chance to come out and look in the eyes of the MTA board and say thank you, this is an entity that sometimes gets a lot of heat, and it takes courage to stand out there and put up with a lot of resistance. But I admire each and every one of you for being part of this storied organization as we chart a future forward that many others had attempted in the past, but were unsuccessful. You are the ones who got congestion pricing done. I want to applaud every single one of you, so thank you. Jano and I share a distinction of being on a lot of covers of newspapers. Not always the most complimentary, but you are also in the line of fire here, and I admire also what you're doing in trying to lead us through these difficult times and to have the courage to say we believe that something is going to have these incredible outcomes at a time when there was no data, there was no proof of it other than research that had been done and studies, but the public did not know. People did not know whether they could believe in this yet. And it's extraordinary to know how the psychology of the whole community has changed around congestion pricing. I can't tell you how many people tell me, places like Long Island, I really hated the idea of congestion pricing, but it used to take me 2 hours to get to a Broadway play. And guess what? It was so fast I couldn't believe it. I had time for another drink. I mean, this is how we're making New Yorkers happy. So it's a real tribute to everyone here. I'm really grateful, and also to be in this beautiful place. Something that when you think about the great architectural achievements of the past in the city, and there are so many, sometimes you wonder, do we lose our ambition? You know, do we not have the vision to do something that is extraordinary and so powerful in its design? And we've met that ambition, the New York ambition, with this Grand Central Madison. I was proud to be here at the very opening and proud to celebrate this 2-year anniversary. So to all of the people who work here, I just spoke to some of the people in the back, and they said they're so proud to be here. And I hope you're proud of the fact that people are proud to walk through this building and know they matter. When you have architecture and buildings that show beauty and its incredible design, it shows that the people you're reaching out to matter to them, and they recognize this. So thank you very much. I also, someone who I have enormous respect for, another Kathy, another woman in leadership. I want to thank Kathy Rinaldi for everything she has done. We've ridden the train many times together. What you have done in creating a record of accomplishment, and just the numbers speaking for themselves, customer satisfaction means everything to me. And the fact that it's been improved with on-time efforts, not just when you had to run the Metro North, but LA are at the same time. I mean, that is something that women are often asked to do the job of too. You did it better than anybody could imagine, Kathy. So I want to applaud you for that. I have a proclamation to present to you. I have been a politician successfully long enough to know that we don't read every word of proclamations. So I'm going to let you read this when you're hanging on in your living room at home, Kat. But thank you. You're extraordinary. You just did an amazing job. I just flew in from Albany and was able to hear some of Jano's presentation on the success of congestion pricing, so you do not need to hear it again from me, but it's real. It is genuine. It is extraordinary. And it also calls me to recall that, think about the fact that public transit is facing an existential threat from Washington right now, whether it's the overall funding or whether it is the attack on congestion pricing. One thing we've established, New Yorkers do not back down. It's not in our nature. It's not in our DNA. It's not anything we're capable of doing. And I had an interesting trip to the White House. I did my very best. The fight's not over, but I had a considerable time in the White House, and I want to thank my team for putting together what I envisioned. I said, I want something that encapsulizes in real simple terms, real nice pictures of what we're getting with congestion pricing. So I was able to show this to the president behind his desk and talk about how beautiful it is, the 2nd Avenue subway, big, beautiful Penn Station, the Interborough Express connecting the outer boroughs. Congestion pricing is working, big words, nice colors, decreasing the trip times from New Jersey. It's all right. They'll make it up to us. They'll be appreciated. Transit ridership up, fewer injuries. Traffic down, business up, more people visiting the districts than we've had in a long time. And so the growth in visitation. So there's a lot of nice things here. Broadway attendance, nice buildings that are recognizable. And together we will make New York fast, strong, and beautiful together. So we're not done. We are in court. We have said that you may have asked for orderly cessation was the phrase that came in the letter to us, orderly cessation. I will propose something in the alternative, orderly resistance. Orderly resistance. We will keep standing up for New Yorkers. Reducing traffic, air quality is going to continue improving. But I also just need to point out that there is a huge disconnect between the reality we know that New Yorkers are facing and the perception of reality out of the White House. I guarantee that the president has never had to endure missing a child's sporting event because they were stuck on a delayed, he was just stuck on a delayed train. Never had to stand in a flooded subway station because we were not able to make the repairs. Not sitting in traffic, missing an important meeting because you couldn't get around. That is the reality of New Yorkers that we're solving for. That is our mission. That's why we cannot be deterred from what we're doing here, because we know the people of this great city in this region deserve nothing but the best. And when someone tries to say, no, we have another vision for your city, we just have to stand up and say, we respectfully disagree. And take that to the courts, take it to the people, because I know there's a lot of power in that Oval Office. But I will put that power up against the power of 6 million pissed off commuters in New York City right there alone. So, onward and upward, my friends. I feel very confident that we'll be victorious in the courts because you all did your work. You did your work. And we're ready to take on any challenge that comes our way. And unlike the Republicans in Congress last night who got steamrolled into doing something that is harmful to people of this nation, indeed the Republicans from New York who did something that is harmful to their own constituents, willing to cut Medicaid. That's another example of where we must stand up, and we will stand up. We will not be steamrolled the way they were in Washington last night here in the state of New York. So that is my commitment to all of you, and we're in this fight together, and I'm in it as long as it takes. Thank you very much, everybody.
My minder, General Counsel Paige Graves, is back in her chair, so we can resume regular programming. But it's not all the regular stuff. Can you put up a screen for me? Ladies and gentlemen of technology, I have the second part of my little presentation here. Where are they? It's the one with the big fat Metro North train in the middle of this picture. Who? Tim? Yeah? There you go. That's it. So back to our celebration of Kathy. I spoke a little bit about Metro North stats before, and I didn't get to finish the whole story because we knew the governor would be here to start the celebration off. On top of that sterling 98% on-time performance rate and the increase in ridership, Metro North has a mean distance between failures. This is the stat we use to see how well the trains are functioning. Hugely important. The goal is 200,000 miles, mean distance between failures, frequency of train breakdowns. Metro North, under Kathy's leadership, is at 332,000 miles, MDBF. For those of us who are trying to bring public sector into the 21st century high-performance business practices, we fall to our knees in front of the woman who got 99% of eligible Metro North employees to complete their performance reviews. Oh, my God. Those are all incredible high points. We could go on and on. But no wonder that Kathy chose this moment when she's at the summit, statistically at least, to announce her retirement and to walk off into the sunset. Kathy has been an incredible asset to MTA over the years, serving in so many different roles. Chief of Staff, General Counsel at MTA HQ, and before that at Long Island Railroad, becoming the first woman president to lead Metro North in 2018. She is so talented that as the governor said, I asked her to lead both railroads in 2022 while we prepared to open this facility and to implement the largest service increase in Long Island Railroad history, all of which was, of course, taking place in the aftermath of a global pandemic. Since you may have forgotten about all this drama, memories are short, let's watch a short video about Kathy.
It's a wonderful job. It's a challenging job. I never expected to have a job like this.
I don't know if everybody recognizes this, but Kathy Rinaldi leads both MTA railroads. I always say she's doing the job of two men and hitting it out of the park. So Kathy, thank you.
It was such an honor for me to work on Grand Central, to lead the Long Island Railroad at this seminal time in its history, and it was the highlight of my professional career. And with a new, improved Harmon shop, we can continue to deliver exceptional service to our tens of thousands of daily customers.
Long Island Railroad and Metro North have had record on-time performance. That's because of Kathy Rinaldi. This lady is amazingly talented and somebody who is already making history in so many ways, Kathy Rinaldi. So thank you, Kathy. Now we get to a little presentation, another presentation. It is a special token of our appreciation, a mosaic sample from the White Plains train station that she was so instrumental in renovating. The art is by Barbara Takanaga. Thank you, Kathy. We hope you'll enjoy this in your time. Got a mic for Kathy? There you go.
Oh my God, I mean, this is
words I would have never uttered before. Minton to the rescue.
There's always a first time, right? No, I was just saying to Jen, I'm glad I dressed up. I mean, this is this is super overwhelming, right? I mean, I started out as sort of a humble public servant here at MTA in 2003, and I've been lucky enough not to be able to hold a job here because I've had many. And I've worked with so many amazing people over the course of my 20 years here. I'm so grateful for the opportunities I've had. I'm so grateful for this recognition, which is, like, this is not me. I'm not very comfortable with all this stuff, right? Yeah, I know. But, and I said it at the committee the other day, I love taking credit for other people's work. It's one of the great things about being president, right? I have led two phenomenal organizations, and it's the men and the women of Metro North and Long Island who perform the daily miracle every day. They carry people in all kinds of weather, all kinds of crises. They come to work on Christmas. They come to work in the middle of the night. They get the job done. I am beyond proud to have been in a position to be able to lead such an amazing group of people. Very grateful for your leadership, Jen. I'm very grateful for all the opportunities that I've been given. I'd like to be queen of both railroads, as it turns out, right? I was very grateful to have, had your vote of confidence with respect to ascending to that position. So thank you very much for all that you have done for me and you have done for the organization.
Okay. One more hand for amazing packing. Okay, now we're, please.
I remember having seen the Oscars a bunch of times where people actually forget to thank their family. My husband is here today. So my husband, who was infinitely patient with me over the course of my career, he's here today.
Yeah. Okay. From the sacred to the profane, I'll have the quorum question now. Do we have a quorum page?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Now we're going to get to something I alluded to earlier, which is the efficiency, the battle for efficiency and credibility with the public and decision makers in Albany. Key to that is what we've done in the capital construction environment. Jamie has been leading that, doing an amazing job. Jamie's going to make a presentation on that topic.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. It's quite a set of acts to follow here, but we're always happy to talk about cost containment, no matter who we're following. I'm very pleased to be able to make this presentation. This is following on the operating agency summary that John Kaufman gave to the board last month. And it's the chair set it up well. It's great to make this presentation here in Grand Central Madison. The rescue effort that was made by Jano as my predecessor of this agency to get this thing open and bring it in on the schedule that was set, on the budget that was set, in 2018 to get it open. And so many people were involved in getting that done and over the finish line. I can't, because he's in my field of vision, I can't help but acknowledge our MTA chief code official, Dan Nichols, no doubt standing over there to make sure we're not exceeding capacity with the board meeting. But, at the end, Dan and many others were involved in making sure that this was not just this great new facility, but the first MTA facility that meets modern code requirements for life safety, something that we want to get done at Penn Station and other places. But that's the complexity of opening a modern facility like this, and we got it done after that cleanup effort that was underway. So this is a great place to be talking about this. The board can be assured that even as we see the impact of congestion relief on traffic levels and public safety within the zone, all the things that we talked about, the governor talked about, we're also preparing to make good use of the funds that are being collected to support the future of our system. We've continued to move projects forward. Bottom left, 270 battery electric buses awarded. We exercised that option using funds that will come in from congestion relief. We awarded, with the board's authorization in December last week, we awarded 22 dual-mode locomotives for Long Island Railroad, $155 million award that was made last week with congestion relief funds. We've restarted ADA and station improvement projects. You can see there, top left at Hollis, Forest Hills for Long Island Railroad, the Brewster Yard improvements, a little bit of an obscure image at the top left, for Metro North, but that makes way for the future M9A fleet. We can't bring that fleet in and properly service it unless we make those improvements, which are congestion relief funded. Big projects in procurement on the right side of the slide, Fulton and Liberty A and C signal modernization project, The governor talked about 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2. That's in procurement for the big tunnel package. ADA packages for 5 stations, including the newly added Gates Avenue on the J and Z in Brooklyn, and a 2-station complex at Bryant Park nearby. 18 more stations over and above that will be made ADA accessible with the proceeds from congestion pricing. And as I said, like our operating agency partners who reported last month, we take just as seriously as getting the work done, whether we are getting it done cost effectively. We're committing to being great stewards of public funds and have the results to show for it. I'm pleased to tell the board today that we can identify more than $3 billion in tangible savings from each stage of our work since 2020. That money has gone directly back into resignaling more, making more stations ADA accessible, preserving more of the hundreds of miles of track and structure in our system. More details on the $3 billion in a minute. But what this approach has allowed us to do with the 25 to 29 capital plan that we're talking about so much is to deliver more for less. Like the MTA operating budget, the new capital plan is a 4% reduction in real dollars when we account for inflation over the 2020 to 2024 plan, and we're getting so much more. Despite that reduction, you can see some examples here. 2.5 times the number of power substations will get rehabilitated as part of this plan for less. Railroad bridges, critical structures, railroad stations, elevated structures, almost 50% more subway cars brought into our system. All of that for a 4% smaller budget based on the fact that we're delivering better, faster, cheaper. How are we doing that? Cost containment starts with setting up MTA construction and development, which celebrated its 5-year anniversary recently. The kinds of cost containment that we have talked about here are only possible because we have centralized management of all capital work, from planning, initial stages, to contracting, to delivery. And I want to talk you through the cost savings that we're realizing at each step of the process. Better planning. Being smart up front about what we choose to work on and making sure we're clear about the scope of the work and the budget for it. It's very intuitive, but it's very hard to do when you're operating a big transit service, which is why having our own agency focused on this is so important. Now we're doing it, and we've identified at least $750 million that we've saved from smart decisions that we're making up front. Some examples. We recently opened Woodhaven Station as ADA accessible. We saved $40 million at that one station by updating our interpretation of the ADA rules, working very closely with our Chief Accessibility Officer to build elevators directly to the platform instead of separate elevators to the mezzanine and then to the platforms. There was a notion that you had to have the exact same path of travel for people with disabilities, which meant going up to the mezzanine and then going up to the platform, even if that path of travel was more difficult. So now we have a much more direct path of travel, and we saved a lot of money by not having to build too many elevators. That's great at that one station, but we're going to do this at 20 more stations that we've identified in the next capital plan. That'll save us $200 million, and we'll be able to get a lot more stations made ADA accessible as a result. On 2nd Avenue Subway, we've talked about this before. In addition to the $1 billion of savings that we identified in initial planning for the project, we used the time of the congestion relief pause last year productively and found $300 million more in savings from right-sizing stations and simplifying construction. That's already baked into the RFP that's on the street right now. On Monday, we announced good progress rebuilding the A service to the Rockaway Peninsula, which is being done under a long-term service disruption that we're working closely with our operating partners on. Demetrius and I spent a very frigid morning last Friday inspecting the work and urging on our great workers who are out there getting that work done. So we're rebuilding the Hamels Y, which is the elevated structure in the foreground that trains run over to get to the peninsula, and the South Channel Bridge, which is in the background. That's a swing bridge that opens and closes to allow marine traffic into Jamaica Bay for a lot of reasons, including to bring jet fuel to JFK Airport. So it was critical that we rebuild this. We couldn't do it without an outage. But another C&D innovation here, believe it or not, due to some institutional barriers at the old MTA, these two projects were going to be built separately, the South Channel Bridge and the Hamels Y, for good institutional reasons back in the day. But that really threatened the amount of time it would take and meant that it would take at least 10 weeks longer to get all this work done. We identified this was not the way to go. We took a step back, we fixed it, and now we have a $600 million mega project to rebuild that service and keep disruption to a minimum. So that's better planning, better contracting, more business-like contracting, all about better ways to share risk with our contractors and our consulting engineers. And here we can see $1.1 billion in savings since 2020 between what we estimated a project would cost and what we eventually awarded the contract for. That's real savings, costs that we avoided before a shovel is in the ground. There's a lot driving this, looking at delivery models like design build, A+B bidding, looking at contract language in detail with industry groups to remove language and practices that are too one-sided, to get a better risk sharing. And what that allows us to do is eliminate the MTA premium. That's what, that's what it's been called in the past. Contractors put an MTA premium on the fact that they don't know how much utility costs they're going to have to take on. They don't know what their insurance costs are going to be. They don't know how disputes are going to be arbitrated. We fixed all of that stuff in a really cutting-edge way so that we get less of a premium, and it saved us over $1 billion. You can see all this, again, in ADA accessibility practices. We're hitting our stride with those. 6 design-build contracts awarded since 2020, a number of station complexes over and above that, even our first public-private partnership. It's how we've gotten the work done at 4 times the pace than ever before, and we've seen almost $250 million in savings on these packages since 2020 alone. And we talk a lot about the value of adding new signals. This is another big contracting innovation. We awarded our first design build project for resignaling, the Crosstown, the G line, not just the contract, but relying more on basically modern GPS and 5G technology and less on redundant old equipment. It means that that project, which was awarded at the end of 2022 that this board voted on, is nearly 50% less per mile than any previous resignaling project, CBTC project that we've done. And of course, we're getting cellular service on the G line and other benefits at the same time at no cost to riders or taxpayers. And then we've showed the board the innovation of our project at Park Avenue Viaduct. It's another contracting example because the contractor, through innovation that we encouraged while we were doing the solicitation, the procurement, was able to come up with a much better way to approach the project than we had been thinking about, and we're able, as a result of that, to save $95 million and 4 years on the 2 phases of the project. And then better delivery. We've innovated in project delivery through great management, and we've saved another $750 million. This is the difference between what we initially budgeted when a project started and where it came out at the end. And this is what we really mean when we say a project is built on time and under budget or on budget. Some examples of this: we've been keeping up better with structural repairs. The chair showed an example of an impact of that in East New York a couple of weeks ago. This is what's going to keep happening if we're not able to make this investment. But this is on tunnels and on our elevated lines. Underground, in our recent Grand Concourse repair project, our project executive, who's an innovator, came up with a solution to the difficult problem of how to bring all the materials into the work site when we have limited work trains and we don't want to disrupt service. This is the logistics that slows down projects all across this city, especially in our system. His solution: bring it in directly from the street instead, bring it in directly from overhead. It's another intuitive idea, but hard to execute in a dense city like ours in a complex system. Because of this, we saved $10 million and we got 40% more work done on that project. This is the kind of innovation. We have to keep doing this structural work so that we can keep running service. We've got $9 billion in the 25 to 29 plan for tunnel structural work, and we're bringing this kind of innovation into that work. On Long Island, our design builder and our business unit came up with an innovative approach to replacing Cherry Valley Bridge with a shorter span steel bridge that had less impact on the community, saved $7 million. It's also going to be easier for the railroad to maintain. I know my colleagues are excited about that. And we talk a lot about the importance of rebuilding Grand Central Train Shed, 100 feet or so above our heads. The start we've made on it in the last few years through a public-private partnership with JP Morgan Chase has saved us $25 million during construction. Those funds, we put them right back into designing the next sector of work on the train shed, which we're also talking with JP Morgan Chase about doing for us. We have $1.1 billion in the next plan, and a lot of interest from developers who want to build things above the train shed. So this is a template that's going to continue to save us money. And better management, we're managing better as an agency, and we're working safer. And that was recognized by our insurance providers last year when we saved almost $400 million on our owner-controlled insurance program. So that bar stacks up to $3 billion in savings that we've identified. And again, it's enabled us to get to a 4% lower real 5-year capital plan that this board has adopted. Few things that are next up, because we're not done. We'll release a strategic plan for 2025 shortly with some of the additional innovations. More integrated planning, for example, on the Hudson Line, where we're focusing on the busiest 20 miles of the line and bundling state of good repair work and addressing big climate risks that we found all at once in a very efficient way. Speaking of bundling, that's an example of what I call bundling 2.0. In the last few years, we've been great at taking advantage of economies of scale in contracting. So 8 ADA stations get done in one package by one contractor instead of a contract for each ADA station one at a time. Now we're taking advantage of economies of geography more and more in the lead up to the next plan, combining different project types regardless of what assets they touch. We have 10 projects for the 25 to 29 plan that are in design and will be getting out as soon as we can, as soon as we have an authorized and funded plan in these improved bundles. So as an example, one of them is the Nostrand line, the 2 and the 5 in central Brooklyn. You can see on the map, historically, this would have been 4 separate contracts: ADA, components, escalators, and structures. And you can understand how you get to that. I mean, these are different disciplines. They're sort of managed by different parts of New York City Transit. It makes sense to divide them up. Geographically, it doesn't make any sense to divide them up. So because we have this agency that we don't have an ADA part of the agency and a structures part of the agency. We have planning, contracts, delivery. So we're able to combine that into one integrated project to minimize outages and save money. Last thing, we're going digital in a big way within this agency. Construction project productivity is a big issue worldwide, and this sector hasn't kept up with the world as it's changed, especially in public-led capital delivery. There's a study that I always reference that says that if the construction sector worldwide had kept up with all the other sectors, we'd have $1.6 trillion more GDP every year across the globe. And we see that here in the way that we execute construction. It's still brick and mortars, and it will be, but we can use technology innovation from other sectors. A big one is using data to keep track of performance and manage performance. We have begun to bring all our systems into a single project management information system platform. You can see a dashboard here that tracks each project and all projects together. We'll shortly be releasing a solicitation for systems integration to bring more of these cutting-edge solutions into our everyday business practice. And we'll be releasing some of this information in a public dashboard as well. But we'll be using it to manage as we move forward. And lastly, we're building up our talent at C&D, recruiting engineers, architects, and construction managers from the best schools, making our salaries competitive, building up classes of entry-level trainees, who you see here at a recent graduation, who we train and support as they get professional credentials, who will be able to run all this work for us decades into the future. And that's really the key, is it's not just about execution of the work and planning for the future, but also building up a great organization that is sustainable in the long term. So that's an update about how we're delivering better, faster, cheaper. As I say, I mean, the top lines are $3 billion in savings going back into the program and enabling us to get to a 4% smaller program that's delivering a lot more in the next 5 years. And thank you, and happy to take some questions on this.
So we're going to delay questions and comments on this incredible presentation for a couple minutes. We're going to do the routine board business because Mr. Herbst has a plane to Florida to see Mr. Mack and Mr. Glucksman. But seriously, that's not the reason. But we do have 2 board members who are schedule constrained. I'm going to go very quickly through the routine board business, starting with the Safety Committee. I chair the Safety Committee Monday and report the following. 1 action for board approval. Federal Transit Administration requires annual review and approval of the New York City Transit Agency Safety Plan, which was agreed to by our transit management team, safety team, along with the union. The committee discussed this item and moved it to the full board for a vote. May I have a motion? Dr. Rizzo, thank you for Mr. Herbst for the second. All in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The item carries. Bridge and Tunnel Committee. I note that the Bridge and Tunnel Committee met on Monday. There were no actions from the committee in Mr. Mack's absence. However, the committee did consider the 2024 TBTA Operation Surplus Resolution. That resolution is part of the Finance Committee report, which Board Member Zuckerman will provide momentarily. Moving on to railroads. Board Member Lopez, would you do the honors?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. The Metro North and Long Island Railroad Committee met jointly on Monday and report the following. There's 1 action item for Metro North Railroad. The item seeks board approval for M&R to amend the employer-based shuttle agreement with Westchester County Department of Public Works and Transportation. The committee recommends this item, and I move it.
Any seconds? Thank you, Dr. Rizzo. All in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The item carries.
The Metro North procurement agenda includes 2 items, including 1 competitive request for proposal and 1 modification for a proposed estimated expenditure of $304.9 million. The committee recommends these items, and I move them.
Second. Mr. Fleischer, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? Items are approved.
There are no procurements for Long Island Railroad, and this concludes the joint railroad road report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Ms. Mahaltzis, Transit Committee.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. The New York City Transit Committee met Monday and reports the following. There are 4 procurement actions for a proposed estimated expenditure of $365.8 million. Included in the package is 1 non-competitive item for sole source procurement from Kawasaki Railcar, Inc. There are 3 contract modifications for the provision of accessorized primary carrier transportation services for paratransit. The committee discussed these items, however, a quorum of members was not present. Today, the committee presents these items for board approval.
These were all reflected in the board book, so folks have had an opportunity to look at them. May I have a motion? Mr. Herbst, second. Mr. Garodnik, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The items are approved. That's it? Okay. Deputy Mayor Joshi for the Capital Program Committee.
Hi, the Capital Program Committee met on Monday and reports the following. There are 4 competitive modification actions for construction and development in the amount of $17.7 million. The committee recommends these items, and I move them.
I'll provide the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition or abstention?
I would like to abstain, Mr. Chair, to item I, 1 and 2.
Okay. So let it be noted, Mr. Herbst's abstentions be noted. Recusal, yes? Mr. Herbst? Yes. A recusal action, okay. And Ms. Joshi, that concludes?
That concludes.
Great.
Thanks.
Yes. Finance Committee, Mr. Zuckerman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Finance Committee met on Monday where, among other work, we discussed the success of congestion pricing and, as the governor said, our full-throated resistance to President Trump and the opposition to congestion pricing. We report the following. There were 4 action items this month. The first action seeks board approval to amend the TBTA Multiple Credit and Series 2025 resolution to authorize the use of term loans to finance transit and commuter projects secured by, in fact, those congestion pricing dollars. The second item seeks board approval to file for and accept federal grants. May they flow like water and not molasses, and may they be fair for the nature of this great state and city. Third is the action to approve the 2024 TBTA operating surplus resolutions. As the chair indicated earlier, this item was considered and moved by both B&T and ourselves. The last action seeks board approval for our mission statement and authorizes an authorization to submit the 2024 statements and performance indicators. I will say, Mr. Chair, you have been achieving our mission, which is to preserve and enhance the quality of life and economic health of the region. So thank you for that. So the committee recommends these items, and I move them.
All right, who will second Mr. Zuckerman's hefty agenda? Ms. Mahaltzis has a second. All in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The items carry.
Great. The procurement agenda contains one competitive item for $9.5 million for Quest Diagnostics. The committee recommends this item, and I move it.
Second? Second, Ms. Lopez. All in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The items carry.
Thank you. We have one real estate action this month, a master lease agreement on behalf of New York State Transit for the 42nd Street Station.
Okay.
Paige has got some sidebar.
Yeah, I said
we just screwed up Robert's
you
rules.
recommended it second. Dr.
Yeah.
Rizzo, thank you. All in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The real estate item carries.
Thankfully, this concludes the Finance Committee report.
Okay, and finally, the minutes. The minutes were distributed. Any comments for anyone? Oh, here he comes. Go ahead.
There are 8 errors, but in the interest of time, I'll go over that with Kate and correct them. They're not substantive.
All right, both, yeah, subject to the non-substantive corrections. May I have a motion to approve the minutes? Thank you, Dr. Rizzo. Second, Ms. Joshi. The minutes are approved. That concludes the board detailed business, and we can return to discussion. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to those who are time constrained. I just want to take a deep breath and come back to the presentation we just heard from Jamie Torres-Springer. This is, you know, this project that we're celebrating today was one of the places we began some of the changes that Jamie has implemented and has expanded on so successfully. And I'm just thrilled to be able to talk about what you're doing in this setting. I'd invite board members to comment or to ask questions about what we just heard. Anybody? Mr. Brown? Can always count on you for a good comment. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know how good it'll be or not, but yeah, there's a lot of very interesting stuff in there. Most of the stuff is way over my pay grade. However, there's one element in there that I found especially impressive was the $750 million you saved before projects start, and that is something I always worked on as I did a lot of work as a toolmaker on projects that went from, you know, nasty steel stock to finished product. And a little thing we had up on the wall was proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. And I believe you really hit the center of the target with that, and let's keep it up. That's all. You know, people will build up faith in our ability to accomplish these very complex tasks. Imagine what this was rocks, you know, just a few years ago.
And one feature of what Jamie talked about, didn't have time to cover everything, is eliminating customization. That we, you know, making sure that our designs are always utilizing what's become industry standard, what is the current most standard, easily available, and hopefully least complicated design strategy, whether it's a component or a methodology of construction. Decustomization is one of the ways that you save a lot of money, and the MTA started from a place where we were overly customizing, and I think we're making progress. Anybody else? Mr. Albert.
Yeah, Jamie, thank you again. I think that's the third time I've seen it, but it gets better each time. Combining projects, thus saving money on labor, materials, and time is just so smart and so obvious. And I'm amazed that it took this long. I think it's also acceptable to contractors. They will want to work on several projects. We might get more bidders out of this way of doing business. So congratulations on getting everything moving more safely, more cheaply, and more efficiently.
I see I have suppressed interest in this topic successfully by shifting to our routine business, and everyone gets hungry at that point. I think we are end of the board business today. Anybody else have anything they wish to raise? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Zuckerman. Second, Dr. Rizzo. All in favor? We are in adjournment. Thank you for coming, everybody.